the year 2347, humanity had spread across the stars, colonizing dozens of worlds and making contact with numerous alien civilizations. Earth was now the capital of the Terran Federation, a major power in the galactic community. But not all was well in the cosmos. A looming threat hung over the civilized worlds, the Zorgons, a hostile alien race bent on conquest and domination. Explorers had only glimpsed their ships from afar, sleek predatory craft bristling with advanced weaponry. Rumors swirled of their fearsome psionic abilities. On Arcturus Station, a major hub at the crossroads of several hyperlanes, a historic event was about to take place. For the first time, ambassadors from humanity, the noble Shaloth, the enigmatic Menace, and the inventive HFY would meet in person to discuss an alliance against the Zorgon menace. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. Security was tight as delegates arrived at the immense space station. Admiral Zara Ortega of Terran Federation Fleet Intelligence oversaw the arrangements personally. As a veteran of the Procyon campaign and the Battle of Rigel, she knew the stakes all too well. Gathered in the Grand Council chamber, the alien ambassadors made for a striking sight. The Shaloth delegate, towering and statuesque, had golden scales and piercing emerald eyes. Beside them, the gelatinous Menace rippled iridescent colors across their translucent body. The tripedal HFY chittered and adjusted their breathing apparatus, their compound eyes glittering. Admiral Ortega stepped forward to begin the talks. But before she could utter a word, a concussive blast rocked the station. Alarms blared and emergency bulkheads slammed shut. They were under attack. Through the chaos, a chilling transmission echoed on all channels. "We are the Zorgons. Resistance is futile. You will submit to our rule or face annihilation." Admiral Ortega struggled to her feet, head pounding. This was no chance encounter. The Zorgons had planned this, a decapitation strike to eliminate the alliance before it could form. She punched up visuals of the docking bays. Zorgon boarders were pouring onto the station, all flashing claws and cybernetic implants. Station security valiantly fought back, but were outmatched. The Shaloth ambassador lifted their ceremonial staff, an heirloom passed down through generations. With a resonant hum, it reconfigured into a plasma lance, cycling up to full power. "Today we fight," they declared, voice booming. "Today we earn our place among the stars." The HFY technician hurried to a control panel, manipulating it with dizzying speed. "I can reroute emergency power to shields. Buy us some time. Let's show these brutes what we're made of." Even the Menace rippled with newfound purpose, oozing between fallen bulkheads to reach the wounded and drag them to safety. Admiral Ortega felt a surge of hope. They may have been strangers mere moments ago, but now they were comrades in arms, united against a common foe. She activated her command uplink. "This is Admiral Ortega to all Terran ships in range. Arcturus Station is under heavy assault. Requesting immediate reinforcement. We will hold the line." Grabbing a rifle, she rallied the defenders as another blast shook the deck. The battle for the future had begun. Over the next harrowing hours, the Allies fought side by side, Terran marksmanship combining with Shaloth psionic strikes, HFY technical wizardry, and Menace resilience to beat back wave after wave of Zorgon forces. The station was in shambles, breached decks venting atmosphere, bodies strewn amidst the wreckage. But still they held on, waiting for reinforcements. At last, Terran battlecruisers dropped out of hyperspace, hammering the Zorgon ships with focused firepower. The remaining invaders fled, leaving Arcturus battered but unbroken. In the aftermath, leaders of the four races stood together, bloodied and exhausted, but filled with grim resolve. The Zorgons had struck first, but they would not have the final word. Admiral Ortega addressed the assembly. "Today we stood as one. Human, Shaloth, Menace, HFY, we rose above our differences in defense of all we hold dear. This is only the beginning. As we rebuild, we reforge ourselves into something stronger. An alliance to light the stars and stand against the dark. The Zorgons believe us weak, but they will learn. For we are many, and we will prevail." And with that, a new chapter opened for the galaxy, one of unity in the face of adversity. The allied worlds were born, and woe to any who stood against them. Together, they would explore strange new frontiers, seek out new life and new civilizations, and stand firm against all who would threaten the dream of peace. The road ahead would be long and hard, with challenges unimaginable. But today had proven what was possible when sapient beings worked in concert. And the Allies would not rest until the Zorgons were driven back to the benighted hole they crawled from. A new era dawned, carrying the promise of a brighter tomorrow. And the light of myriad stars gleamed all the brighter, knowing the Alliance would be their steadfast guardian. In the weeks following the attack on Arcturus Station, the Allied worlds worked tirelessly to shore up their defenses and take the fight to the Zorgons. Admiral Ortega found herself thrust into a leading role, her experience and decisive actions during the battle earning her the respect and trust of the Alliance leadership. Under her command, the Allied fleets launched a series of daring raids against Zorgon outposts and supply lines, striking hard and fast before withdrawing. Each victory, however small, bolstered morale and bought precious time. Meanwhile, the HFY threw themselves into unlocking the secrets of captured Zorgon technology. Their breakthroughs led to rapid advancements in Allied shields and weaponry, evening the playing field. The Shaloth delved deep into the mysteries of the mind, honing their psionic abilities to counter Zorgon mental assaults. They trained squads of elite PSI warriors, capable of turning the tide of battle with a thought. And the Menace. Their unique biology allowed them to infiltrate Zorgon-held worlds, gathering vital intelligence and sowing chaos behind enemy lines. Yet for every hard-won victory, the Allies paid a steep price in blood and treasure. The Zorgons were a foe like any they had faced before, implacable and utterly ruthless. As the war ground on, it became clear that the Alliance needed a decisive blow, something to break the stalemate and turn the tide once and for all. Deep in Zorgon space, Admiral Ortega led a hand-picked team on a desperate mission. Their target? The heart of the Zorgon war machine, a massive shipyard complex churning out the dreadnoughts that had thus far kept the Allies at bay. It was a risky gamble. If they failed, the Allied fleets would be left vulnerable to a crushing counterattack. But if they succeeded, it could be the turning point they so desperately needed. As they closed in on their target, the team faced challenges at every turn. Zorgon patrols, automated defenses, treacherous asteroid fields, each obstacle threatened to end the mission before it had even begun. Yet they persevered. Drawing on every ounce of skill and determination they possessed, the Shaloth PSI warrior wove a cloak of shadows around their ship, masking it from enemy sensors. The HFY slicer deftly navigated the shipyard's labyrinthine networks, opening the way forward. And when they were inevitably discovered, the Menace commando held the line, allowing the others to push on. At last, they reached the shipyard's central power core. As alarms blared and Zorgon forces closed in, Admiral Ortega and her team raced to set the charges that would reduce the entire complex to molten slag. With seconds to spare, they made their escape, the shipyard erupting into a miniature supernova behind them. The shockwave caught their battered ship, sending it tumbling end over end. For a heart-stopping moment, all seemed lost. But then, out of the void, Allied ships surged to their rescue, towing them to safety amidst whoops of joy and relief. The Zorgon shipyard was no more, and with it, the enemy's aura of invincibility. For the first time, an end to the war seemed within reach. Yet even as the Allies celebrated, a chilling realization dawned. The Zorgons, for all their apparent single-mindedness, had plans within plans. The shipyard's destruction was but the opening move in a game that would span star systems and decide the fate of galaxies. The true test was yet to come. In the aftermath of the shipyard raid, disturbing reports began to filter back from Allied intelligence assets. Zorgon activity was surging in the outer rim, far from the front lines of the war. Entire star systems went dark, communication cut off as if severed by a knife. Admiral Ortega found herself tasked with unraveling this new mystery. Alongside a crack team of specialists drawn from across the Alliance, she ventured into the unknown, following the trail of breadcrumbs left by their inscrutable foe. What they found defied belief. The Zorgons were not just waging a war of conquest. They were engaged in something far more sinister, a systematic campaign of extermination, wiping out entire species with chilling efficiency. But why? What could drive a spacefaring civilization to such depths of cruelty and depravity? As the team dug deeper, a horrifying picture began to emerge. The Zorgons, it seemed, were not acting alone. An ancient and malevolent intelligence guided their actions, a being of such immense psychic power that its very existence threatened the fabric of reality. The Shaloth called it the Devourer, a name spoken only in fearful whispers. The Kelmenash knew it as the Unmaker, a force of pure entropy and destruction. To the HFY, it was simply the end of all things. An existential threat, given form and purpose. And the Zorgons? They were but its tools, its instruments of annihilation. Faced with such staggering revelations, the team struggled to maintain their grip on sanity. Yet even in the depths of despair, they found a flicker of hope. The ancient tales spoke of a weapon, a last resort hidden away eons ago by a long-vanished species. The Singularity Core, a device capable of unmaking the Devourer itself. But the path to this weapon was fraught with peril. A gauntlet of trials and challenges that would push the team to their breaking point and beyond. As they set forth on this desperate quest, Admiral Ortega couldn't shake the feeling that they were playing right into the Devourer's hands. But what choice did they have? The fate of the galaxy hung by a thread, and they were the only ones who could tip the balance. The stage was set for a final confrontation, a battle that would echo through the ages. And in the heart of that maelstrom, 4 disparate species would forge an unbreakable bond, united by the unshakable conviction that as long as even one of them still drew breath, there was still hope. The Galactic Council would stand or fall, together. The search for the Singularity Core took the team deep into the heart of the Zorgon Dominion, a realm of shadows and secrets where danger lurked around every corner. Their first stop was the shattered remains of a HFY colony, a once thriving outpost reduced to rubble by the Zorgon advance. Amidst the ruins, they uncovered a cryptic star map, a fragmented record of the weapon's location. But they were not alone in their quest. As they raced to decipher the map, they found themselves hunted by a relentless Zorgon warrior priest, a being of terrifying power wholly devoted to the Devourer's dark purpose. On the windswept plains of a nameless world, the team faced their pursuer in a desperate battle, pitting skill and courage against raw, unbridled fury. It was a fight they could not hope to win, but one they could not afford to lose. In the end, it was the Kelmenash who turned the tide, sacrificing themselves to buy the others a chance to escape. As the warrior priest's blade struck home, the Kelmenash's dying act was to sever the Zorgon's connection to the Devourer, an act of defiance that sent psychic shockwaves rippling across the stars. Battered and bleeding, the team pressed on, following the map to a long-lost Shaloth sanctuary. There, in a hidden vault sealed by ancient sorceries, they found the next piece of the puzzle, a cryptic tome that spoke of the trials that awaited them. To reach the Singularity Core, they would need to brave the Phantasm Labyrinth, a twisted realm where reality itself bent to the Devourer's will. It was a journey from which no one had ever returned, a crucible that would test their resolve to the utmost. As they made their preparations, each member of the team grappled with the knowledge that this could very well be their last mission. Yet even in the face of almost certain death, they found strength in each other, in the unbreakable bonds of friendship and shared purpose that had carried them this far. With grim determination, they set forth into the labyrinth, ready to face whatever horrors the Devourer could conjure. They had come too far to turn back now, and the fate of the galaxy rested on their shoulders. The Phantasm Labyrinth was a nightmarish realm, a twisted mockery of reality where every step took them deeper into the Devourer's malign influence. Grotesque abominations stalked the shifting passageways, warped reflections of the team's deepest fears and darkest secrets given hideous form. To look upon them was to gaze into the abyss, to feel one's sanity unraveling like a frayed thread. But they could not falter, could not succumb to the insidious whispers that echoed in their minds. Too much depended on their success, on their ability to endure the unendurable and emerge unbroken on the other side. And so they pressed on, leaning on each other for strength and support. When the HFY faltered, their resolve crumbling under the weight of their doubts, it was Admiral Ortega who rallied them, her unwavering courage a beacon in the darkness. When the Shaloth's psionic defenses began to buckle, their minds assailed by visions of despair and ruin, it was the HFY who stood with them, their indomitable spirit a bulwark against the shadows. Through trials that would have broken lesser beings, they persevered, each challenge overcome a testament to the strength of their bond. At last, they emerged into the heart of the labyrinth, a vast, pulsating chamber that throbbed with malevolent energy. And there, suspended in a web of dark magic, was the Singularity Core, the weapon that could unmake the Devourer and save the galaxy from annihilation. But as they approached, a final horror emerged from the shadows, the Devourer itself, a being of pure malevolence and Stygian darkness that dwarfed their worst imaginings. In that moment, they knew true fear, a soul-deep terror that threatened to overwhelm them utterly. But they also knew something else, a truth that blazed like a supernova in the darkness. They were not alone. They had each other. And that bond was stronger than any darkness, more powerful than any fear. As one, they unleashed the full might of their combined abilities, a dazzling display of courage and resolve that lit up the chamber like a newborn star. Psionic lances and pyrokinetic blasts hammered at the Devourer's defenses, techno-arcane wards and force fields holding its retaliatory strikes at bay. It was a battle unlike any the galaxy had ever seen, a clash of titans that shook the very foundations of reality. And at the center of it all, Admiral Ortega stood tall, the Singularity Core clasped in her hands. With a final defiant cry, she activated the weapon, pouring all of her strength and the strength of her comrades into its ancient mechanisms. A blinding flash of purest white light filled the chamber, a cleansing radiance that seared away the darkness and sent the Devourer howling back into the abyss. In the aftermath of the Devourer's defeat, the galaxy stood in stunned silence, scarcely daring to believe that the nightmare was finally over. Across 1,000 worlds, people of every species emerged from hiding, blinking in the unfamiliar light of a new dawn. There was mourning, yes, for the billions lost and the wounds that would take generations to heal. But there was also joy, a fierce, defiant celebration of life and the indomitable spirit that had carried them through the darkness. And at the center of it all, the heroes of Arcturus Station found themselves hailed as saviors, living legends whose names would be spoken with reverence for centuries to come. But for Admiral Ortega and her team, the accolades and honors paled in comparison to the bond they shared, the unbreakable ties of friendship and shared purpose that had been forged in the crucible of war. Together, they set about the monumental task of rebuilding, working tirelessly to bring the shattered worlds of the Alliance back from the brink. It was a challenge unlike any they had faced before, but one they embraced with the same determination and resolve that had carried them through the darkest of times. Under their guidance, the Alliance grew and prospered, a beacon of hope and unity in a galaxy still reeling from the scars of war. New species were welcomed into the fold, old animosities set aside in the spirit of cooperation and mutual understanding. And though the specter of war never truly faded, the allied worlds stood ready, united in their determination to safeguard the hard-won peace. Years turned to decades, and decades to centuries. The names of Ortega and her comrades passed into legend, their deeds immortalized in song and story. But their legacy lived on, a shining testament to the power of courage, sacrifice, and the unbreakable bonds of friendship. And so, as the galaxy turned and new challenges arose, the allied worlds faced them as they always had together, united by the memory of the heroes who had shown them the way. For in the end, that was the true miracle of Arcturus Station, the great lesson that would echo down through the ages. That in the face of even the greatest darkness, there was always hope, as long as there were those willing to stand together and fight for the light. Epilogue, Legacy. In a quiet corner of the Arcturus Memorial Gardens, a group of old friends gathered, their faces lined with age, but their eyes still bright with the fire of shared purpose. Admiral Zara Ortega, long since retired but still every inch the leader, stood at the center of the group, her gaze fixed on the towering statue that dominated the gardens, a monument to the heroes of the Zorgon War. Their likeness is captured in eternal bronze. "It's been a long road," she said, her voice soft but filled with quiet pride. "Longer than any of us could have imagined." All those years ago, beside her, the Shaloth ambassador nodded, their scales now silver with age, but worth every step, they said, their voice resonant with the wisdom of centuries. "The galaxy we helped build, the peace we fought for, it endures, and that is a victory beyond measure." The Yixel AA chirped in agreement, their exoskeleton now burnished with the patina of time. "And the friendships we forged," they added, their compound eyes glinting with emotion. "Those too endure, unbreakable and eternal." For a long moment they stood in silence, each lost in memories of trials overcome and battles won. Then, As one, they turned to face the statue, their hands rising in a final, poignant salute. To absent friends, Admiral Ortega said, her voice ringing out across the tranquil gardens. And to the future they gave everything to protect. As the echo of her words faded, the old friends turned to leave, their steps slow but filled with quiet purpose. Their war was long over, their duty discharged. But the legacy they had built, the shining beacon of hope and unity that was the Allied worlds, that would endure. A testament to the courage and sacrifice of the heroes who had stood against the darkness and shown the galaxy the way. And as long as that light continued to shine, as long as the bonds they had forged continued to hold strong, then Zara Ortega, last of the heroes of Arcturus Station, could rest easy, knowing that her life's work was complete and the future was in good hands. The saga of the Galactic Council and the Allied worlds had come to a close, but the legacy of those momentous events would shape the course of history for generations to come. In the centuries that followed, the Alliance continued to grow and evolve, embracing new species and new worlds with open arms. The principles of cooperation, understanding, and shared purpose that had been forged in the fires of war became the bedrock upon which a new galactic order was built. Under the wise guidance of the Council, the Allied worlds experienced an unprecedented era of peace, prosperity, and scientific advancement. The ancient ruins of long-dead civilizations were uncovered and studied, their secrets unlocking new vistas of knowledge and understanding. Explorers ventured ever deeper into the uncharted reaches of space, driven by an insatiable curiosity and a thirst for discovery. They encountered wonders beyond imagining, cosmic phenomena that defied explanation. Alien species with ways of life and modes of thought, utterly unlike anything they had known before. And through it all, the memory of Admiral Ortega and her comrades served as a guiding light, a reminder of the heights to which sentient beings could rise when they stood together in common cause. But even as the Alliance basked in the glow of its achievements, new challenges began to emerge. On the fringes of known space, whispers began to circulate of a new power rising, a civilization with technology and abilities far beyond anything the Allied worlds had ever seen. At first, the reports were dismissed as mere rumor, the product of overactive imaginations and spacers' tales. But as the evidence mounted, a sense of unease began to spread, a gnawing fear that the hard-won peace of the galaxy might once again be threatened. In the halls of power on Arcturus Station, a new generation of leaders gathered, determined to meet this latest challenge head-on. Among them were the descendants of Admiral Ortega and her team, scions of a proud lineage who had grown up on tales of their ancestors' heroic deeds. As they pored over the latest intelligence reports and debated courses of action, they could almost feel the weight of history on their shoulders, the legacy of all those who had come before them urging them on. And so, as the Allied worlds braced for a new and uncertain future, the spirit of Arcturus burned bright once more, a beacon of hope and defiance in the face of the unknown. The saga of the Galactic Council might have reached its end, but the story of the Allied worlds was far from over. For as long as there were those willing to stand together in defense of peace and freedom, there would always be hope, no matter how dark the night or how daunting the odds. And so, with courage in their hearts and the bonds of friendship to guide them, the people of the Alliance looked to the stars once more, ready to face whatever the future might bring. For they were the heirs of giants, the custodians of a dream that had endured for centuries. And as long as that dream lived on, as long as the light of unity and hope continued to shine, then the legacy of Admiral Ortega and the heroes of Arcturus Station would never be forgotten, and the galaxy would always have champions to defend it in its hour of need. Centuries turned to millennia, and the galaxy continued to turn, an endless dance of stars and worlds and civilizations rising and falling in the vast cosmic cycle. Through it all, the Allied worlds endured, a beacon of stability in an ever-changing universe. The challenges they faced were many and varied: new enemies to confront, new crises to navigate, new wonders and horrors to discover in the depths of space. But always, the spirit of unity and common purpose that had been forged in the crucible of the Zorgon War sustained them. A bright thread woven through the tapestry of their shared history. Generations came and went, each leaving its mark on the ever-growing edifice of the Alliance. Leaders rose and fell, some remembered as visionaries, others as cautionary tales. Through triumph and tragedy, the Allied worlds learned and grew, adapting to the changing tides of a galaxy in constant flux. And at the heart of it all, the memory of Admiral Ortega and her comrades lived on, a shining example of the heights to which sentient beings could rise when they stood together in defense of a common cause. Their names became the stuff of legend, whispered in reverence by schoolchildren and invoked as rallying cries by soldiers on the front lines. In the grand halls of power and the humble corners of everyday life, their legacy was felt, a constant reminder of the unbreakable bonds that held the Alliance together. But even as the Allied worlds celebrated their triumphs and mourned their losses, they never forgot the lessons of the past. They knew all too well that the peace they enjoyed was a fragile thing, hard won and easily lost. And so they remained ever vigilant, eyes turned towards the stars and hearts steeled for whatever trials the future might bring. They forged new alliances, explored new frontiers, and stood ready to defend the ideals that had carried them through the darkest of times. For they were the inheritors of a dream, the guardians of a light that had shone through the ages. And as long as that light endured, as long as the bonds of friendship and shared purpose held fast, then the galaxy would never truly know darkness, and the legacy of the heroes who had shown them the way would endure, a testament to the indomitable spirit of all those who had dared to stand together and fight for a brighter tomorrow. And so the story of the Allied worlds went on, a tale without end, written in the stars and carried in the hearts of all those who called the galaxy home. It was a story of hope and courage, of sacrifice and triumph in the face of impossible odds. But more than that, it was a story of the unbreakable bonds that held the universe together, the ties of friendship and common cause that could never be broken. And as long as those bonds endured, as long as there were those willing to stand together and fight for what they believed in, then the light of the Allied worlds would continue to shine, a beacon of hope and unity in a galaxy that would always need its heroes. And the legacy of Admiral Ortega and the heroes of Arcturus Station would live on, forever enshrined in the annals of galactic history, a shining example of what sentient beings could achieve when they dared to dream of a better tomorrow. In the Grand Plaza of Arcturus Station, a vast crowd gathered, beings of every species and every world coming together in a celebration that would be remembered for generations to come. It was the unveiling of the Eternal Flame, a monument that would stand as a lasting testament to the heroes who had saved the galaxy and the ideals they had fought to defend. At the center of the plaza, a towering spire of crystal and light rose into the air, its surface etched with the names of all those who had given their lives in the cause of peace and unity. At its base, an eternal flame burned, a symbol of the unquenchable spirit that had carried the Allied worlds through the darkest of times. As the crowd watched in reverent silence, a figure stepped forward, an ancient HFY with eyes that had seen the birth of the Alliance and the fall of its enemies. In a voice that rang out across the plaza, they began to speak, recounting the story of Admiral Ortega and her comrades, the heroes who had stood against the darkness and shown the galaxy the way. They spoke of courage in the face of impossible odds, of sacrifices made in battles won. They spoke of the bonds of friendship that had held the Alliance together, the ties that had proven stronger than any force in the universe. And as they spoke, the crowd listened, tears streaming down their faces as they remembered all those who had been lost, all those who had given everything to defend the dream of a better tomorrow. When at last the HFY fell silent, a hush descended over the plaza, a moment of quiet reflection as each being grappled with the weight of the legacy they had inherited. Then, as one, the crowd began to chant, their voices rising in a chorus that shook the very stars. In unity, strength. In strength, peace. In peace, the eternal flame. Over and over they repeated the words, a mantra that would echo through the ages, a reminder of the principles that had guided the Allied worlds through centuries of trial and triumph. And as the chant rose to a crescendo, the eternal flame seemed to burn even brighter, a beacon of hope and memory that would endure as long as the Alliance itself. For the heroes of Arcturus Station had not fought and died in vain. Their legacy lived on in the hearts of all those who had come after, in the unbreakable bonds of fellowship and common cause that held the galaxy together. And as long as that legacy endured, as long as there were those willing to stand together and fight for what they believed in, then the light of the Allied worlds would never be extinguished, and the galaxy would always have its champions ready to defend the ideals of peace, unity, and hope, no matter the cost. So ended the saga of the Galactic Council, and the Allied worlds, a tale that had begun in the fires of war and ended in the light of an eternal flame. But the story of the galaxy was far from over, for as long as there were those who dared to dream, as long as there were those willing to stand together against the darkness, then there would always be hope, and the legacy of the heroes who had shown the way would endure, a shining beacon for all the ages to come.